So if you saw my last video, you knew that this video was coming where I was just gonna talk about Sonic Frontiers. It took me about a couple weeks to beat it, mainly because I had work and other things going on, but to be perfectly honest with you, it's really not that long of a game. Now, if you guys have already seen discussions on this game, you guys know that Sonic Frontiers is quite polarizing at the moment. For a lot of Sonic fans, it's like, you know, the Sonic Adventure 3 essentially. Like, it's like that good in their eyes, or it's like the return to form for Sonic. For other people are just saying like, you know, this game is bad, it's unfinished, it's a mess. Not as unfinished as Pokemon Violet or Scarlet apparently, because that game is a mess, and I'll talk about that another time. Kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy 15. That's kind of the vibe I get from Sonic Frontiers. There's so much good potential, and I love the stuff that's within the story of this game. It has a lot of good stuff in this game. So let me go ahead and talk about some of those things. I'll talk about the good, the bad, and then I'll have a separate video later on just about the spoilers of Sonic Frontiers, because I do want to give the story some time and attention. This game has a very disappointing ending, but the lead up to it is quite good, which is kind of different for a Sonic game, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm used to the lead up being kind of shaky and the story kind of going all over the place, but then, you know, the final set piece being like super awesome and flashy, and in this particular case, it's kind of the opposite. The majority of the story is pretty damn awesome, and even the ending kind of gives me, you know, it kind of got something out of me. I was a little emotional when playing through it, so if you want to get the true ending, you gotta play it in hard mode, which is another complaint I'll have. But overall, the story of Sonic Frontiers is quite good. If anything, I would say that it's the second best Sonic story after Sonic Unleashed. A lot of the characterization they gave. So overall, I love this. I'm gonna get a separate video about this game's story. The second thing I want to bring up was obviously the gameplay, right? At the end of the day, this is a video game, so it has to be fun to play. Even if the story is fantastic, the gameplay has to be playable to, you know, actually get me to the ending, right? So what did I think about the gameplay? I'll say a majority of people think that the cyberspace levels in this game suck. In my personal opinion, they're okay. They don't control as good as I want them to, but trying to get the S ranks in them was quite fun. Definitely wish it controlled better. I don't want it to control exactly like the boost games, but they should have tweaked the controls a little bit more for these levels instead of just dropping Sonic in them. But overall, I don't think the cyberspace levels are as bad as people are making it out to be. I played through all of them, and I can say for the majority of them, overall I had fun. Most of the times they were easy, but there were a few hard levels. In fact, 1-2 is going to be considered one of the hardest levels of all of Sonic. The time limit on that just to get an S rank is ridiculous. However, I do want to also talk about the open zone, because that was the selling point of this game. What happens when you throw Sonic in a truly open world or open zone environment? You spend a lot of time exploring the map, solving puzzles, and collecting items. And for the most part, I will say it was fun to do this. However, it also felt very aimless at times. Like, I never really felt like I had a true purpose exploring this world other than collecting tokens to see the next story event. Controlling Sonic in this world feels great, like 90% of the time. There's some jank here and there, but I think once I got into the flow of trying to explore the rest of the island, trying to 100% every single map, that's when the game in the open zone sections felt a little bit more fun to me. There are small puzzles you need to do and things that you can collect. It's not a challenge to complete these puzzles, but I don't expect a Zelda game out of Sonic. That's how I feel about the open zone and the cyberspace levels and as a whole. They never hit the highs I want them to, but they never hit the lows either. It's a genuinely fun experience to go through this game, solve puzzles, explore, and go through cyberspace levels. All of that was particularly fun for me. It wasn't perfect, I'm not saying that, but it was good. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, for the most part, I had a pleasant time playing through this game from beginning to end. Now let's talk about combat really quick, because this is kind of the area of Sonic that was completely new for me. I never expected Sonic to go in a direction where he was going to really like go into combat, and the first time I saw it, I was kind of like weirded out by it, to be perfectly honest with you. I actually think it's really fun for the most part. Like, nothing is really challenging, don't get me wrong, and sometimes some of the bosses can be kind of janky. For the most part, I like the idea of Sonic having these combat skills. You know, why not give him some combat skills? It makes him a little bit more cool, especially when you already like do a Dragon Ball Z-esque thing with like something like Super Sonic, right? Like, why not give him some attacks, right? I think that's really cool. I hope in future games, you know, that bosses and enemies are more challenging and maybe have a little bit more to them, but for the most part, I would say that the bosses in this game and even the enemies are quite great without spoiling anything. And again, I'll get into that in the spoiler section, but the main bosses are the highlight of this game. It doesn't really hold your hand, and I like that. You have to kind of figure out the game mechanics and, you know, figure out how to fight the bosses, and I think that was some of the fun of it for me. You can even experiment to see different things, and you can defeat bosses in any way you see fit with the combat skills that you have in your disposal. The bosses have a lot of little things to them, but I really enjoy them. I would say, with the exception of the last two bosses, main bosses, the first three bosses, pretty exceptional. I'm not gonna lie to you. Bosses in this game were an absolute highlight. I loved it. It was all really good. The music was amazing, and really quick, let's talk about the music in this game. The music for the cyberspace levels is quite good. Sonic's definitely going in a slightly different direction where it's not quite completely like rock or punk or metal. It's kind of doing this like electronic rock dubstep house vibe, but I'm okay with it. It's not particularly like my kind of music, but I really enjoy the music that's in it. Man, that boss music, oh, it's so good. Especially from someone that grew up in the 2000s. Man, it takes me back, man. Like, I don't even listen to that music as much anymore, but this soundtrack really got me going back to listen to that and that kind of style of music. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. I highly recommend listening to the soundtrack when it releases on December 7th. But that all being said, those are my quick opinions on Sonic Frontiers. I really enjoyed it, right? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's as fucking good as Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Mania, but I'm also really not gonna sit here and tell you that it's like Sonic Lost World or Sonic and the Secret Rings or Sonic 06, the original, not P06, but Sonic 06, the original one, right? Nothing gets that bad, and I think people that are saying that this game sucks or something like that, they're comparing it to that, and I think that's a little bit unfair. It's okay to say that the game is disappointing, and I could totally see those points, but for the most part, I would actually say that I really enjoyed this game. It's nice to say that about a Sonic game, and it's not one of those things where like, oh, you know, I'm excited for what this game could bring to the future of Sonic. Like, if I just look at this game as individual, it's a good game. I'm not gonna say amazing, but it's a great Sonic game. Of course, they set a great foundation here, but I think this game on its own, pretty good. I had a great time with it, and I am excited for the future of it, but I don't like this game because I'm excited for the future of Sonic. I like this game because this game on its own, for me, works really well, and it's quite good, and it's quite fun. This is just my opinion, and I hope you guys can respect it. That all being said, thank you guys for giving this the time of day and listening to me rant about this game for a little bit. I really did enjoy it. I hope you guys give it a shot. I understand if you don't like it, find it disappointing, but for me personally, I genuinely enjoyed my experience. It didn't take too much of my time, and I loved the game from start to finish. There's some things in between, but I genuinely recommend this game. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoy it. Take care.